What's up stitches? My name is Smikle and welcome to or back to my YouTube channel. In this video I'm going to be knitting the sleeves for the Folklore cardigan. This video has taken a hell of a lot longer than I anticipated, over a reason that I'll talk about later in the video. You know what, I won't get into it now. I know you guys just want to see the video. If you haven't seen my previous videos, do check them out. I'll put them in the eye link above my head. If you do want this pattern, this exact pattern, head on over to my Patreon. However, as I mentioned in previous videos, there is a Lion brand version of the pattern. So if you can't wait and you don't want to support me, that's fine. Go check out the Lion brand one. If you do want to support me, check out my Patreon. If you haven't already, subscribe, like my videos. It is nice to know that people like me. But I won't keep talking, let's get into the video. So to start off the sleeve, I'm actually going to be working from the top down instead of going from the bottom up like I've worked everything else. So I'm just doing a provisional cast on, so it's kind of similar to the tubular cast on whereby you have scrap yarn and you cast it on. But this one is kind of different because I'm not going to do the whole like picking up stitches and stuff, it's literally just going to be there. So I can then later take it out and do the Kitchener stitch or the half grafting stitch to attach my sleeves to the rest of the body. And so now here I'm just starting off knitting the same kind of pattern that I did for everything else. It was a bit of a trouble to design the sleeves, simply because I, again, tried to cut corners. So I ended up having to redo it and redesign it so many times, which is why I filmed myself knitting the second sleeve rather than the first sleeve, because then you would have had a video that looks very much like my front panels video, whereby halfway through I realised it was trash and needed to redesign it. As always, I'm not going to do a full time lapse of me knitting the items because the time lapse would probably, even at the fastest speed, end up being over an hour, so here's some magical editing. So it's been a while. It's been a long while. I realised that when I bought the yarn for the extra yarn for this, bought the wrong colour, didn't I? Of course I did. Of course she did. What else would I do? So I ended up having to buy more. But the colour that I wanted was not in stock until like a week ago, so I had to wait for that to be back in stock. And then when it was back in stock, it took a while to get here, but it's finally here. I've got enough yarn to finish the project now. I've got my buttons, I've got everything, so this should be done at some point this year. I don't know, I'm trying so hard to stay motivated, but it seems like every step of the way I keep getting knocked back. But it's fine. It's fine. It's going to be worth it because the final result is not going to be half-assed like I was probably going to do before. But yeah, the sleeves will be finished soon. So I just continued on with the pattern and then I got to the part where I need to do the ribbing for the cuffs. And I need to do it a bit differently to how it obviously was all done before. So I am going to start doing the ribbing. This time I'm obviously working downwards, so I need to make sure that I keep that in mind when doing the stripes so it matches everything else. And I'm just getting rid of all the stitch markers because you don't need it, because you're just doing 1 by 1 rib for 8 rows, just with a couple of rows of blue. Now we're moving on to the Tubular Bind-OFF, which is to me a bit trickier than the Tubular Cast-on. So what I'm doing is I'm just making sure I leave a long enough tail. So what I tend to do is just measure 3 times the width of what the project I'm binding off is and then cutting it there. Now to do the Tubular Bind-OFF, it's easier if you have knowledge of how to do the Kitchener stitch, because it's kind of like the Kitchener stitch but just off one needle and using a tapestry needle. So what I'm doing here is I am inserting the needle to start off purlwise through the first knit stitch and then knitwise through the first purl stitch, but coming up from the back of the work. And then I am pulling it knitwise through that first knit stitch, then purlwise through the next knit stitch on the needle, and then purlwise through the first purl stitch, and then take that off the needle. And then I'm going knitwise from the back of the work into the next purl stitch. So it does sound quite complicated when you explain it all at once, but it's just following that pattern of repeating. So knitwise off the needle, purlwise into the next knit stitch, keep it on the needle. And then you do purlwise into the first purl stitch on the needle and take that off. And then knitwise from the back, and then leaving that on the needle. It takes a little while to get the hang of it, but once you have, it'll end up looking like this, nice and clean, just like the tubular cast-on. So I've finished my sleeve. As I mentioned earlier, I did already have another sleeve finished, so I've actually finished both sleeves now. All I need to do is block this one because there are some differences in the drape between the blocked and the unblocked. Thanks for your patience in waiting for this video. It's taken a while. Hopefully I can figure out the button band pretty quickly so I can just get it finished and then I can move on to my next project because I am so impatient that I just want to get going on new projects. I've now got 3 balls of white yarn, which I might do like other folklore based accessories, like I might do a bandeau or like a hat or like a scrunchie with those. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's a bit frustrating because that means that this has taken a lot longer than I wanted it to, but it's fine, it's here now, it's all good, and the yarn all matches up, so the new cream matches the same as the previous dye lot. Just the finishing, trimmings, button band, and sewing it all together. That's all in the next video. If you don't want to miss my inconsistent uploading, then do subscribe so you're updated whenever I upload a video. And if you want more regular content from me, and you want loads of other perks, including the pattern for this, and exclusive Patreon only knit and natters and podcasts, then head over to my Patreon, patreon.com/SmikleGoesKnitting, and you will be able to access all of that and access the Discord, which means you can have contact with me, any questions you have, any comments. That's how you get in contact with me. So yeah, head over to my Patreon if you want. If not, no worries, just subscribe and like this video if you want to. If not, that's also fine. After these folklore cardigan videos, I might do some other like folklore merch. Then I'm moving on to a new project, which I'm very excited about, so make sure you stick around for that. I'll give you a hint. It's another singer. That's the only hint you're getting. Make sure you are looking after yourselves. I will see you in the next video. Stay wholesome and happy knitting.